It's Don here from the board. Thanks for coming along and checking out this video. So today we're going to be having a look at the Ajazz AK087 wireless mechanical keyboard 1000 crisp structure design. Wow, that is an absolute mouthful. So WhatGeek reached out to me and asked me if I'd be interested in checking out this keyboard. So I said, sure, send one over. So while they provide this keyboard, everything and anything that I say is 100% my opinion. There's no scripts here at all. So what I like, what I dislike is entirely from my experience of the unboxing and having a look at this keyboard. So as per usual, let's have a look at their website on what this keyboard is all about. So here it is. This is the Ajazz AKC087 1000 crisp structure design. So what's really interesting about this is that it's actually got these layers that you can see here. The intent here is that I guess it's some kind of stacked material on the actual case. As you can see, there we have it. So hopefully we'll be able to see that on the actual product, and yeah, what does that mean? What will it do? So it is a metal stacking structure designed with distinct layers, electrostatic powder spray process. So what I think that means is it's powder coated metal. So we've got a AS101 yellow switch, HP-like advanced switch, which I think they mean Holy Panda maybe. So that might be a tactile switch. It is hot swappable. It does have wireless modes on it. It's got backlit mode on it, and there's drivers. Now, as per usual, I generally will not be looking at the RGB or the lighting in a lot of detail. That's just not my thing, and I'm not going to go to the effort of actually installing the drivers with it. So you can see it's priced at $185, normally Australian. Right now it seems to be on sale at $152, and you have the choices of barebone kit or full keyboard. So yeah, there is wrist rests available as bundles and keycap sets as bundles. So I'm not 100% sure what I'm getting in here. They did mention it, but it's buried in the email trail somewhere. So we'll just head down to the desktop instead. So here's the package. I've cut the address label off on it, so you know, won't dox myself too hard. And then we can get into it proper and have a look at this keyboard. Now I do actually have my other microphone set up as well, so we'll be able to do the sound test on that with a what do they call them? A measurement microphone. It's effectively a calibration microphone because it's got a very flat response. Now this package is actually really heavy. It's quite heavy. I'm not going to pull out the kitchen scales to check it, but trust me on that, it's got a lot of heft to it by comparison to a lot of other keyboards I have reviewed. Okay, so they've done really well in packing it with the EVA foam, and ooh, that is pretty cool. I like that. The style on that's actually really neat. Ajazz, they've kind of changed their logo a little bit. Open structure, all metal body, ergonomic inclination angle. That's what they've written there. All metal body, ergonomic inclination angle. Top of the box, Chinese. Side of the box, nothing. Side of the box, there is a sticker with some code on it. Doesn't mean anything to me. Front of the box is Chinese. Back of the box, what's it going to tell me? Milfur yellow switches. Okay, that's what it says there. So they actually have translated it to 1000 layers. And then this just tells me that it's a 2000 milliamp battery, weighs approximately 2.1 kilos, which would explain why it does feel really heavy. And nothing else is giving it away. So let's just make a break in the plastic, and then we should be able to take care of the rest pretty easily. Now I'm just going to put this away safely. Boop. And we can get to the rest of this opening. There we go. Okay. That is a well-seated lid. Has it got tape? It's been taped on both sides. Didn't see that. So I'm just going to have to do that very quickly. Okay. I don't know how to deal with the focus is constantly an issue on this surface these days. Will it have something to focus on? There we go. Alright. We've got a bit of foam. There's nothing on the inside of the lid. So the foam's obviously there for a bit of protection. We've got a Ajazz and Narcotics triple mode keyboard. So there's some detail and instruction there. So that's good. There it is. So I've got the full Jasmine version by the looks of it with keycaps pre-assembled, and woo, that, yeah. All right, so we've got cable, we've got a combi switch puller and keycap puller there, fairly standard, and a bit of bling. Easy to just push it out the bottom instead. They've given us a dog tag. I mean, I think this is meant to be a keychain, but it is reminiscent of it being a dog tag. It's laser engraved and it says AKC087, and it says designed by Emlong. So that's cool. I'm not really sure what I'm going to do with that, but maybe that's just leftover bits of metal from the actual production of this keyboard. So they thought, hey, we might as well do something with it. Right, so ooh, this is different. Wow, look at that. That is different. That is industrially different, sexy different in all sorts of ways. That was not what I was expecting. I honestly thought that it would have filled layers. I thought it was going to be interdispersed layers of like metal and maybe acrylic or something, but OMG, this, my mind is blown right now. So okay, first of all, it's not 1,000 layers, right? Because there's not 1,000 layers there. There is 4 layers of metal, but the construction is really interesting. We've got 2 layers that have obviously a post that you can see there's a screw underneath. So the bottom layer is screwed into the top layer, and it happens twice. So you've got these bottom 2 layers here are screwed in together, but then the bottom layer here is screwed into this layer because the post appears to go all the way through. Yeah, it does. So it seems like, what on earth is going on? I don't want to pull this apart, but it looks like, from just me squizzing around this, so we've got a top plate layer, we've got the actual switch plate layer, we have the PCB layer, and then we have a base bottom. And it seems like that the PCB is somehow attached to this layer, probably through the post, and then, or it's actually, okay, no, I get it now. So it's a floating PCB. The PCB is somehow... No, it can't. Okay, I have to revisit this thinking pattern now, because tell you what, if you drop this, it's going to really hurt, by the way. Is there stumps? Yeah, okay. So it looks like that there is actually other posts in the middle. There are actually other posts. That's really hard to see in the camera here, but there are other stumps that are holding up the PCB. So they're being screwed onto those stumps, which are being held by the bottom layer. And then this mid layer is just really not doing anything to physically support that. And then you've got the switch plate layer and the top layer. Okay, right. And what I have spotted is actually there's a wire harness that is, I don't know if you can see it there, but there's just sort of next to that post in the middle, there's a red wire and a yellow wire and a black wire. So that wiring harness is actually what's feeding into this base section here that contains probably the battery and the control units. Now, what I've just realized also here is, besides the fact that you've got these switches, so you've got USB mode, you can go to Bluetooth or wireless, you've got the cable plug there, Mac and Windows, and this haha, should be the wireless dongle, because it wasn't in any of the other accessories, and there it is. And unlike the Corgi board that I reviewed, there is a magnet on this, but there's also a clip. So, and what I mean by that is, you can see, maybe, there's that little blip there. That little indent is actually providing positive holding against the actual USB receiver. So that's cool. That's actually really cool. There is a magnet because I felt it when I was pulling on it, but that, yeah, see, that just sucked it right in to hold it. Okay, so, wow, it's a very industrial design, and it's got cherry profile keycaps on it. Pretty solid, pretty rugged. And this thing ain't going anywhere. It's super heavy, which is fantastic. Let me just take the keycap off the corner here, the escape key. Alright, so we've got these new yellow switches, these AS101s that they're talking about. It is a tactile. It's got a good bump on them. It is a negative tactile, so I am right in that when they say HP, they are talking about a Holy Panda style, but they're loud. And yeah, the first thing that I just thought about was, it has a typewriter sound to it. It honestly has a typewriter sound to it, and I love it. As a clicker user, most tactile switches don't give off any real significant amount of interesting sound, and that is giving off an interesting sound. I'm very pleased. I was not expecting that at all. I was not expecting any of this. Let's have a look at these keycaps. Okay, so there's my calipers, and you can see it's lining up around 1.4, so it's just over 1 mil, and the vernier is sitting about a 1.4 mil on that. So it's a reasonable thickness. 1.3 on that side, 1.4 on that side, and they look double shot, so they should last pretty well. Right, now, stabilizers. What kind of stabilizers are you hiding? There we go. So just bog standard plate mount clip-in stabilizers, and I don't really see any lubrication on them. Some factory lubed stabilizers just have absolute globs of lube on them. They're smooth, but they're not sticky. Oh man, this is driving me nuts right now because this is going to be a loud keyboard, and I love it. As a clicker user, right? So my daily driver here at home at the moment is a Philco with MX Blues, and I use a 96 key with box navies for my work laptop when I'm working from home, and then I use box navies in the office, right? So clickies and noisy is no issues for me whatsoever. But this thing, I'm anticipating this thing is going to be off the hook. Is it crispy? I don't know if I would describe it as crispy. Is it clacky and thunky? I'm quite possibly. Thocky? No. This is not going to be a board that has thock. It is going to take thock and beat it with a cudgel really hard. It's got silicon feet on the bottom, by the way, and these are quite nice. They're doing a good job, and we'll see how that goes. And this is a really thick cable. It's just plastic. It's not braided or sleeved in any way, but I guess it kind of fits in with that theme. It has that sort of industrialness about it. And let's plug it in. I think the weirdness that actually is that this has RGB. For what it's such a weirdness about it because it looks very industrial and it fits beautifully into like an office environment, except for the noise on, you know, if you're not going to type on it. But then to plug it in and get RGB, it's weird. It doesn't really fit the vision that I'm seeing here, because this is very like Model M-esque, right? I'm going to turn off the room light and the table light here, so we can see exactly how bright it is. So it's not, you know, Gondor calls for aid kind of bright, but yeah, it's okay. And we can also flip it up to the front, and you can see how much of that light bleed is actually happening around. So, you know, you can definitely turn them off, I'm sure, which we can probably have a quick look in the manual to turn them off for office use or professional use. And then if you want to have a bit of a party afterwards, you can always turn them back on. All right, so let's have a quick squiz. That's multimedia, that's mode for light switch. Okay, turning on, off. Light brightness is function pipe is going to be effect switching, but there's no actual direct on off. So maybe there will be a way of getting that off. Let me just hop into, say, okay, so it's still got a light mode on there, a light mode there, oh, light mode there. Still got a light mode. Explosions. Okay, so that's not helping me because I swear I've gone over 18. I might need to either turn the brightness all the way down or off entirely. Key combination function space. No. Okay. You know what? I'm not really going to bother turning it off simply because it doesn't really matter for the purposes of reviewing. But yes, you might need to look it up if you don't want it to actually give off party vibes if you're using this in the office. So right now you're listening to me on my ribbon microphone, which has a, it's got a pretty flat response, but it's designed for instruments and voice. So listening to that is not necessarily as representative compared to using this measurement microphone, which is calibrated to be super flat. So we're going to switch microphones now. All right, so that is probably a bit loud. We'll come back it off a little. There we go. So now we're on the calibration mic, the measurement mic, and we will do a 30-second monkey type on the Milfur from Ajazz. Woo! Wow, that is an experience. First impressions is that tactile switch it's decent, it's nice, snappy, good amount of give. It's not super lippy, so it's not like a but there's a little bit of a roundness to it before it falls off into the free fall from the actual tactile bump. The space bar is really clunk. It hits really hard. Now, I've been typing around between 89 to 106 today on monkey type, and I just want to show you what I did then, which is 108 at 97. So that's about pretty much stable for me. You can see it's quite flat, it's quite even. So the feel of this board and the feel of the switches is not impeding my typing at all. Now, for context around that, I actually reviewed a different board earlier today, and that particular setup made me drop 20 words per minute on the first type. The second type, I was back up to about 96 words per minute, but the initial typing on that, it actually completely threw me off, whereas this is actually quite comfortable. Okay, so saying that, this fits into my jam in terms of typing with clicky switches, which has a bit of tactility to it compared to linear switches. It is a very stiff board, by the way, and ordinarily I'm kind of in between because it has to pair correctly. On the other board that I reviewed, it had light linear switches on it and a really hard plate, and it was not pleasant to type on. With these tactile switches, they've got a good mid-weight to them. They're not super heavy. They actually give me a better response, and I'm not super hard bottoming out on these. I am still bottoming out. You can hear it 100%, but I'm not slamming it to the point where I feel bad on my fingers with these. And the sound is it's not as Model M solenoid clunk, 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 clunk. It's a little bit sharper than that, but it's definitely not thocky, and there is actually a certain echo and hollowness to it. It is a very interesting sound, very interesting. I want to go again another 30 seconds and get a bit more of that into my head on how that sounds. Okay, so a bit slower on the typing there. Some of the words were tripping me up there, but I was trying to listen a bit more, so my focus was less on the screen and more around the response. I'm going to break it down into two things here, and I think that's going to impact my preferences. I like how the switches sound and how the keycaps sound on typing. I don't like how the spacebar sounds. The pleasantness of the actual typing with with the switches is a good sound. It's a good feel. The issue with the spacebar is very loud and hollow and is a very different response. The displacement of it is, it's almost completely alien to how the switches sound. So I think they're mismatched. That's probably the best way of describing it. I don't know what the solution would be to it, if it's just trying to dampen that to fill it so it's not so hollow and echoey, but it is a much louder space bar to how the rest of that keyboard sounds. Alright, so let's just switch over again to the other microphone. Okay, alright. Well, in conclusion, besides the spacebar, besides the RGB, I really like this keyboard. I like the look of it. It's actually not what I thought it was going to be, because the pictures were actually really deceiving for me. I thought there was filled layers, and the fact that it is an open chassis all the way through is really different and really unique. It's got a massive amount of weight to it, a lot of heft. Like if you're going to be in a zombie apocalypse and you need a weapon, this would do you well in lieu of a solid aluminium board. 2 kilos is a lot of heft. It types well, and of course it, in theory, being a hot swap, you know, if you pull these out and you swap them with something else, yeah, of course, you're going to get a completely different response around it. But for what it is, I think it's great. The keycaps, you know, might be a little bit thin, double shot, but they should last. Cherry profile, classic, no issues with it whatsoever. If anything, it's just that. See, these are okay because they're smaller. It's just tonk, 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 tonk. It doesn't sound good. It doesn't sound pleasant. It's got a lot of almost rattle about it, right? Resolve that and I'd be much happier with this. The underside of it, the styling of it, the color scheme, the design, the feet. Look, it doesn't have changeable angle, but it's quite comfortable. I had no issues with typing on this, so that's really neat. I'm going to say this is a really good, solid 8 out of 10 for me. Just got to resolve this, and it would be actually quite nice. I think the cable, you know, they probably could have furnished it with a slightly nicer cable, and it would still fit in, thematically speaking. But yeah. This powder coat finish is also really cool, and the fact that, you know, you don't really see the screws or anything like that because they're probably hidden under the feet here, and also in here that you got to take these off to access that middle point screw, or through the top. Actually, if you pull them out, you can see the actual screws in between. You can disassemble it from the top probably. Yeah, very impressed. Right, well there you have it. That is the Ajazz AKC087 1000 crisp keyboard, the Milfeur, as they. I don't know why they don't just label it as the Milfeur on the actual website instead of just calling it 1000 crisp. It's written on the box. Thank you very much to WhatGeek for supplying me this. This is actually an absolute highlight of the board for me right now. Really thoroughly enjoying that. Yeah, I think this one is definitely going to stay in the collection for a while to come. Maybe take it to some meetups if I actually get to one, and people can really check it out. So if you want to check it out, I'll hopefully have some links in the video description below. There might be a discount code or an affiliate link or something like that. Please, of course, feel free to use them as you wish. If you do buy one and I get some proceeds from it, then I appreciate that, and of course that might help me and fund some of the crazy things that I do on this channel. If you like this video and all the other kinds of stuff that I do here, please hit that like button, hit that bell notification button, and that subscribe button. And yeah, we'll catch you on the next video. So, as usual, until next time, happy clacking.